जी की प्रेरणा से वो छोटा सा एक हमने डिस्कशन रखा जिसको हमने कोविड आ गया, तो ये शुभ लाभ वाली जो बात है इसको हम आगे बढ़ाना ही चाहते हैं। एंड अब जब मोदी जी ने वसुधैव कुटुंबकम वगैरह की बातें की एंड देन इनसे आपने देखा ही होगा कि लाइफ स्टाइल मतलब एनवायरमेंट ये सब जो बात की और ये जो सारी की सारी चीज़ें जो हैं इसमें शुभ लाभ का होना अनिवार्य है। अगर शुभ लाभ नहीं है तो ये आप वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की बात कर ही नहीं सकते। और इतना मतलब जो दुनिया को कंट्रोल करता है दैट ऑल ऑफ अस आर लिटरली लाइक स्लेव्स। ये पूरा का पूरा जो चल रहा है दैट इज एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट मैनिफेस्टेशन मेरे हिसाब से WEF वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम खाना WEF जो है उनका जो पर्पस
Welcome everyone. Now we are with us today having Professor P. Kanagasabapathi, a very renowned scholar on Indian model of economic development. So he will join with us and he will share his knowledge with us on the Indian knowledge system and its implication for our current life for economic development and social development. So I request
recording in progress.
So I request Professor Lisa Pandey, Director GIDR, to welcome our guest Adit and we will proceed with the meeting. Thank you for joining. Please.
Welcome to Mr. in our institution GIDR. It's a pleasure to have you here, and it's really a great pleasure for me and the family of GIDR that you have accepted our invitation with short notice, and I'm sure you are going to share your knowledge how Indian model of development can be promoted and the Indian model of development and the business. This is the need of the day of the Indian context and the emerging India. Now you know this is the day of celebration when in India Chandrayaan 3 landed and everyone is celebrating, not only in India, all over the world. Indian model of development, Indian way of working, Indian way of promoting all grassroots development as well as development at space level. So we are everywhere. So it starts from the grassroots or it ends with the industrialization and the industry and the space, everywhere, we are everywhere. But with all these things, we should remember that how our grassroots development and development which is not recognized since long, and that is now is the time to recognize the way Indian working. So we now we have Mr. Kanagasabapathi, who is master in this area, and he is certainly going to share his experience, his research which he has done on ground, and those who are sitting here and those who are connected in our website and YouTube, from their side I welcome you again, and we wait for something good to be from your experience. Thank you very much. I would like to welcome you again.
Yes, thank you. Oh,
Sir, I am
sir.
We have also we have also with us eminent scholar SP Kanagasabapathi, and he is also a well-known scholar in Indian knowledge system. Sir has a recent book on pragmatic ways for Ahmedabad, Gujarat, which is published recently. Thank you, sir, to join us. I am also welcoming formally Madam Professor Nithinetas from Spicer, Ahmedabad.
Respected Director of GIDR, Madam Professor Nisha Pandit, my dearest senior friend, Mr. Tagayaji, for whom I have to come here today. Tomorrow we have a program. Respected professors, Madam from Spicer, the friends. So I am very happy to be here to share some of our own experiences in the form of thoughts today on Indian model of development, Indian model of economic development for emerging India. During the late 1980s, for my PhD work, I studied stock markets. In those days, there were not many people who studied stock market. In fact, if I remember right, I was the second person in India to do a doctorate work on this stock market. So we all believe that only the Western financial system, Western financial model would work in India. What happened after our PhD, during the early 1990s, when Sri Narasimha was the Prime Minister and Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Finance Minister, he saw to it that the stock market activities increased. As a result, at that time, till 1990, there were only 9 stock exchanges, if I remember right, in India. So over the next few years, there were 14 new exchanges. So 91, the central government, 91, 92, central government took up a project. They organized investor conferences across the country. The idea was to educate people about stock market so that they would come and invest in the stock markets. So I was chosen as one person to go to different parts of the country because we were one of the earliest PhDs to talk to the people, to tell them as to how it is advantageous for them if they invest in stock market instead of making investment in the regular avenues like banks or jewelry, lands, etc. I remember we used to go to different cities. So usually the investor conferences would be around 2 hours. So we would go and speak to them about the virtues of investing in stock markets. And after that, they'll give half an hour, 20 minutes for question and answer. In most of the cities, there would be questions. Because the persons who were invited were all elite sections of the society. Highly educated people, entrepreneurs, prominent doctors, advocates, auditors in that locality, in that city. So this is how it used to take place. But even then, there would not be questions. So we used to wonder every time after the program was over, when we discussed, we used to discuss as to how India is going to develop, because there are not many people who are invested in stock market. At that time, later, stock market investment in America peaked at about 50%, but in India it was only 2 to 3% of the people. So this was my experience. Due to some strange coincidence, I was working at that time in Coimbatore. My native place is Coimbatore. So in a management institute, in a very prominent institution. So I come from a village which is about 10-15 kilometers from that institution, from Coimbatore. So they made me as a president of an agricultural cooperative bank. Because earlier my father was there. So because of that reason, without elections, they made me as a president of the primary agricultural cooperative bank. It was catering to the needs of about 20-21 villages. Elections did not happen for the previous 15-20 years due to political reasons. So when I went there, the deposits in that bank were 22 lakhs. But within 1 year, the deposits touched 5 crore. And it crossed 5 crores, it was going on. So at that time, the Chief Executive Officer of Coimbatore District Cooperative Bank, which is the upper bank for all the primary banks, he came to our office, he met me, he told me, sir, deposits are increasing at a very fast pace. So it will not be possible for you to make use of it. So you put up a notice outside the bank premises saying that you don't want deposits. I said I cannot do it because I am a local person. But I will try to see that we are making use of the money in the best possible manner. Then that is how my interest in this native financial system started. I remember about 3-4 years back, when we went around the southern part of India to different cities to speak to the elite sections of the society, telling them that they have to invest in stock markets, there was no response. But I went there in my own village area. I did not go and meet anybody. People came to know that I became the president of that bank. So educated person from that family, he became the president. And deposits were increasing every day. So I realized for the first time in Indian society, this theories don't work. It is the persons who matter. So that is how I started my studies. Then that year, I remember right, 96, 97, we started studying the cooperative banks in our western region of Tamil Nadu. You know, western region of Tamil Nadu is economically most vibrant region. It contributes more than 50% to Tamil Nadu GDP today. It has about 10, 12 prominent clusters like Tirupur, Coimbatore, Karur, Namakkal, Sagagiri, Tiruchenkodu. You know, they play a very, very significant role. Gujarat and Tamil Nadu has many similarities. You know, here also you have very prominent clusters, very vibrant clusters. Tamil Nadu also very vibrant clusters. In fact, over the years we have noticed wherever we have these vibrant clusters, the state's economy would be comparatively better. So when we went around to study the investment habits of ordinary people, savings habits of ordinary people, we came to know many things. We came to know that, in fact, during that time, whenever we used to go to the class, I basically am a finance teacher. When we go to the classroom, we always teach in India saving rate is very less. People don't save money. So this is how we were also taught, and we were also teaching as teachers. But when we went to different parts of Tamil Nadu initially, we realized that almost 90-95% of people save. It is the only thing at that time was they were not saving in banks, what we call official saving today. They don't save. They give money to their relatives, or there are indigenous ways of saving mechanisms in India, like chit funds. In southern part of India, chit funds are very popular. In fact, at one point of time, 17% of financial savings in southern states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra was taking place through chit funds only. So people were saving money. Only thing they were not saving money in banks, what we call official saving. Second, we realized that when we started this study, when we were engaging with the people, what we call the very ordinary people of India, we came to know that the financing investment habits are interrelated with different other aspects. For example, every family believes that they have to do something for their next generation. Of course, they put their children in best schools, colleges. Many of them would like to set up small businesses, so that when the children grows after 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, they will be able to enjoy regular income, maybe fortune also. So this is how we were doing. So even though we wanted to study only the financial and investment aspects, the study took us to different other areas like entrepreneurship, family system, the role of women in decision making in India. So it took us to different other areas. And in 2001, one of the noted thinkers of India, original thinkers, he mentioned her name, Guru Murthy. He told me that I have started studying particularly Gujarat and Punjab. He studied through his, when we came here for different reasons, about few sectors like Rajkot, etc. He advised me, it is better that you go to particularly Gujarat and Punjab and start studying there. So that is how in 2001 we all came here. We visited about 7-8 states and we stayed here in Gujarat only for 7 to 10 days. We visited Ahmedabad, Surat, Rajkot, Morbi, 6-7 prominent industrial business centers of Gujarat. Similarly, we went to Punjab. And in 2003, when the present Prime Minister was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, he invited us to study the kite business. We all know, you know much better than me, that these kite activities are very popular. It happens throughout the year, maybe 5 times a year, on very important occasions. So when we came to know that we are engaged in this kind of studies, he invited us. We came here. That study went on for about 5 months. 2003 August to 2004 January. Then 2004 January, when the International Kite Festival was here in Ahmedabad. He invited us, and at that time a book on that kite business was also released. So when we were studying this kite business, it was a very small business. It was a cottage industry. In fact, when we went to meet the people, entrepreneurs, they said, "Sir, we are categorized as cottage industry. You do something so that we can come out of this tag, and then let the government give funds to us." But the government was very, very proactive. So at that time, the turnover we estimated was about 30 to 35 crores. Now it must be maybe 1,000 crores. 2-3 years back, I was told it was 800 crores or so, 850 crores. But it was largely due to the proactive approach of the then government. So this is how we started studying India, going to different parts of the country, going to the field level, and studying as to how the Indian systems, economic systems, business systems, management systems, social systems are functioning. We never relied on textbooks, even though I'm a teacher. When we go to the classroom, of course, we have to teach. Sincere people, we have to teach. But when we went around the country and started collecting data, our data was completely based on the field level experiences. So after studying India for about maybe 7-8 years, we came to know that Indian story, even the contemporary story, is something completely different. Completely different. All of us know at the time of independence, India was a poor, underdeveloped, less literate country. 18% was the literacy rate of India. About half of the people were living below poverty line. 32 years was the average age of life for Indians. Life expectancy was 32.1. Health expert is here, so you know better. All our economic, particularly this banking and business sectors, were very weak at that time. So this was the question. But if you see now, things have improved a lot. Now we all know, if we take the literacy rate, it has crossed 75%, maybe now 77, 78. Similarly, life expectancy must be around 70, etc. A few years back, London Business School had estimated that India had about 85 million entrepreneurs, 8.5 crore entrepreneurs, perhaps the largest number in the world. So when we see the 75 years of experience of India, economic experience, business experience, we see vast difference. And when we see the background of the economic development in different other countries, I would say that in no other country has made such a U-turn in a period of just 70 years as India has done. 75 years, 76 years back, we were a poor, underdeveloped, less literate country. We are one of the most promising nations today. Top 5 countries. If you take purchasing power parity basis, we are the third largest economy even today. Now, what is the reason for this? This is what we were able to understand when we studied India from the field level. All of us know there are 7-8 characteristics, but I restrict it to 2-3. All of us know India is one of the highest saving rate. Even last year it was about 31%. If you see the last 20 years, it was always average saving rate was about 30%. In 1950-51, when we started collecting macroeconomic data for the first time in our country, saving rate was, if I remember right, 9.1%. 9.1%. Even at that time, when half of our people were starving for food, saving rate was 9%. You take the Western so-called developed countries today, whether it is America or many of the European countries, some of the countries saving rate was less than 9% or in single digits only. But even at that time, our saving rate was 9%. Today, last year it was 31 or so. I remember some 10 years back, 1 year, it touched 39%. So our people save enormous amount of money. And the saving take place at different levels. At different levels, we have noticed it. It's not at the individual family level alone, even at the business level, whether it is small, medium businesses, of course, SMEs, very high. Even at the corporate level, the westernized corporate level, come and compared to the western countries, our saving rate is very, very high. I always give this example, economists would be knowing about it. You know, in the corporate system, we have share capital, that is the amount invested by way of capital. And every year, company transfers a part of the fund towards what they call reserve account. This is savings for the company. Why this savings? This saving will be used whenever the company finds it difficult due to different reasons. Let us say due to some government policy or market reasons. Company is not able to earn profit that year. You know, these reserves would be used. In academic parlance, we say always this capital reserves ratio should be 1:1. That means if you have some 10 crores or 100 crores as capital, then you need to have the same amount of money, almost same amount of money as a reserve. So that if some contingencies happen in future, you can use this. So this is what the Western system says. They say that if capital is 1, then reserve also should be along the same line. But you take any Indian company and then study it, you will come to know always reserves would be 20 times, 30 times, 40 times, 50 times, 100 times. Any balance sheet you can see. More than 99% of the companies, they save higher amount of money than what is prescribed in the academic text. I know companies that save huge amount of money. There was a company called Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank. You may be familiar with it. This bank was promoted by South Indians, a South Indian community, which did not have proper education in those days, 70, 80 years back. But it was Asia's best performing bank till recently. Till 2016, the capital of that company, Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank, was just 26 lakhs. 28 lakhs. But if you see the reserves account, it used to be 200 crores, 250 crores. So theoretically, assuming that the company is going to incur losses, even if the company incur losses, it would survive for another 800 years. Can you believe it? This is how Indian companies save money. Of course, this is an extreme example, but this is how even the corporates save money. When we come to the lower levels, of course, we have seen in many places, particularly these clusters, business industrial clusters, they save as much as 90% of their income, 85% of their income. Even in Gujarat, Surat, Rajkot, some best examples. So this is how Indians save money. Why? Because in India, saving is part and parcel of one's economic activity. Spending beyond one's limit is considered as a sin in India. So that is the reason why people save money. So when I talk to the students, I always tell them, you are all sitting here and I am speaking here because we have strong families behind us. Our parents save money. In fact, they save as much as possible, even foregoing their comforts for the future generation. So this is one reason why India is economically, business-wise, it is developing. And I will tell you maybe a little later, connected with the practices some 500,000 years back. So one reason is that we have enormous sums of money as saving. Even this 30%, 31% we say what I say is only official saving based on government documents, banking documents. We don't know how much money our own brothers and sisters save in jewelry. Very high. I remember when we made some calculations based on some data, but there was some data from outside source also, which I think would be appropriate for me to quote. Some 15 years back, it was estimated that there were 25,000 tons of gold in India, in Indian families. So, when I go to women universities, colleges, I ask them, do you know how much gold your mother has, grandmother? Many of them won't be able to answer. But it is going to go to them only. So this is how our people invest so much money in jewelry, which is outside the purview of what we call official savings. So there are different ways of native saving mechanisms even today, though things are getting formalized in the last 7, 8, 9 years. So much money is being saved. So we don't know the exact saving, but we know one thing, that Indians save very high amount of money. This is one. And our savings are invested in what we call safe and cautious investments. You know, when we say that Americans invest 40%, or sometimes back, sometimes 15 years back, 55% of their investment are in stock market related instruments. But in India it is always 3%, 2%, 4%, because our people avoid making investment in risky investments. Stock market is a risky investment. Then we came to know later that all family-oriented societies across the world try to invest less in stock markets, less in stock. Among the Western countries, if you take, Germany is largely a family-oriented society. Its investment in stock market-related investment is less, about 20% or so. I don't know the exact figures now. So you take Japan, another example. Their investments are largely in the form of bank deposits. Largely in the form of bank deposits. Some 10, 15 years back, the government of Japan, based on the advice of these multilateral agencies, IMF, they wanted people to take money out of the bank and invest in stock markets. So for that purpose, they reduced the saving rate, bank deposit rate, from 3% to 1%, and then made it to 0%. But even then, people did not take money out of banks. Then they said, if you want to keep money in bank as a deposit, you have to pay charges, like the way we pay charges when we keep our jewels in bank. Japanese people paid charges and then kept the money, they did not take it out. Because Japan is largely a family-oriented society. That is why even today, if we see, out of the global savings, 70% savings take place in Asia. India, China, India. We don't know, we don't have official rates about China. We know only most of the data, budget data, but other countries. So family-oriented societies save as much money as possible. This we can. Second, if we see the capital formation in India, for any economic activity, any business activity, you need to have capital. Of course, one's own savings play a very important role, but one's own savings may not be enough in most of the cases. So you have to mobilize funds from other sources also. You know, as far as India is concerned, when we say these outside sources, particularly small businesses, we have to understand here, small micro businesses play the dominant role in India. It was estimated a few years back that in India we had about 630 million small businesses. It may be slightly much more now. 6.3 crore businesses are there. And the largest number of employment is provided by these small businesses. About 125 million people are employed in these small businesses, 12.5 crores. If you take the organized sector, government sector and corporate sector, the total employment would be around 15 million or so. 15 million or so. But this provides employment to 125 million. So, as far as these small businesses are concerned, when they mobilize funds, you know, they always try to mobilize funds through their own near and dears, relatives, friends, and local financiers. Of course, things are changing in the last 7-8 years with after the advent of Mudra and different other schemes. But till 10 years back, it was largely through the local connections, friends, relatives, their own village community people, money lenders. They were all playing the most dominant role. I remember when in Rajkot, when we came there, 2001 for the first time, then subsequently also first meeting, Rajkot Chamber of Commerce meeting was taking place. Then I asked them as to how they mobilize funds. Later we came and did a study also, formal study also. So most of them said, sir, we all came here about 5 years, 10 years back. We learned, we worked from our owners. Then after a few years of experience, when we gained the confidence, we thought we can promote our own enterprise. We went back to our villages. We informed our villages. Our friends, relatives at their village contributed money to us. And we will be returning money to them. After 1 year, 2 years, we started earning profit. So this is how in many of the places, even in the 21st century, funds were mobilized. Particularly in states like Gujarat, states like Tamil Nadu, and many other states. So through this local network relationship, funds used to be collected. This is what we call as social capital in economics today. Social capital is the tendency to move with others as our own friends and relatives. This is quite natural because it is there only in relationship-based societies. In individualistic, atomized societies, social capital is very, very less, almost nil, particularly countries like America, etc. There was a very famous author, his name was Robert Putnam. He has written many books. Bowling Alone is one of his very famous books. He describes as to how this individualism has destroyed the social capital in countries like America, as a result of which their economic activities are getting affected today. So the way Indians mobilize funds in all clusters, in all business industrial centers, is something unique. It is largely based on relationships. Relationship as a friend, relationship as a relative, relationship as a person belonging to the same town, village, etc., locality. So this is how about 80 to 90% of the funds were collected in India. So the saving mechanism, the capital formation, is something unique that helps our Indian economic and business activities to grow. Then third is this entrepreneurship. In fact, India is highly entrepreneurial. Only thing is we in academic system, we don't know about it. When I was coming, we were discussing about EDI. When I came here last time for his innovative thought forums roundtable meeting, we went to EDI and we had a discussion also with the senior professors over there. We in academic system, we look at entrepreneurship from the textbook point of view. But the way it is happening in India, it is completely different. The economic development over the last 75 years in India is largely due to the native entrepreneurial capabilities of Indians. I often say that Indians have enormous entrepreneurial wisdom. You can never see in any other country. By nature, every third or fourth Indian is an entrepreneur. Even today, India is the most self-employed nation in the world. If you take the larger countries, 45% or maybe 46% of Indians are self-employed. If you take countries like America, European countries, largely it is in single digits. When I referred last time, some 3 years back, self-employment rate in America was 7%. 7%. So they have destroyed this self-employment habits, tradition. But in India, in spite of all these difficulties, self-employment system is there. In Mitra Mitra said, self-employment is the best status in life. It is neither capitalism nor communism. It combines the advantages of both. So this self-employment is the main factor behind all our economic activities. So over the last 75 years, due to the entrepreneurial abilities of India, India has been growing. This is in spite of the state. In spite of the state. We all know after independence for about 30-35 years, the policy makers imposed the socialistic approach in all these economic business activities. As a result, we know that in 1990, we were not even having the money to pay for our oil imports. As a result, we had to go to back of England to pledge our gold. This was the position. So next 20-25 years again, the rulers at that time felt that the globalization was the best policy because it was thrust upon us from some outside forces. Again, as a result of which India could not progress based on our own strength to the maximum extent. But in spite of this, for about 60-65 years, India has been growing. This is the point that we have to understand. Even though she did not grow to the fullest extent, India was growing. Nobody could stop. So this is the point that we learned when we went and studied or made our studies. In fact, most of the clusters in India, we don't have the exact number of clusters. It would be, in my opinion, about 4,000 plus if you take smaller clusters also. Most of these clusters were developed, or the seeds for development were sown in the 1950s and 60s when socialism was at its peak in India. So the ordinary people of India, after they came to know that they got political freedom, they realized that they got economic freedom also. This economic freedom affected only the larger companies, big companies. But the smaller people, they started making investments, 5,000, 10,000, 30,000. This is how they invested money in the 50s and 60s. So during 80s, 90s, they became very important clusters. In the 1970s, you take Tirupur. Tirupur is India's well-known hosiery exporting center. 40% of India's knitted garments are exported from Tirupur. Then comes Ludhiana. So in 1970s in Tirupur, there were no exports. 1985, 15 crores. Today, it is about 37,000 crores. 37,000 crores. Domestic sales, another 35,000 crores. Total sales will be around 65 to 70,000. If you take these clusters, in none of these clusters there is foreign investment. No single dollar of foreign investment. And no attempt by the government. Maybe in the last 10-15 years things have changed. Earlier to that, there were not much initiatives for their promotion from the government side. I remember some 20-25 years back, when we made studies on clusters, went to the government, many of the senior secretaries were asking, is there a place like this in Tamil Nadu, in India? They were all prominent centers, but they did not know. This was the position. So they are all self-developed, developed by the local communities, local people. These local people do not have much educational background, and their financial backgrounds also were not that good, but it is they who developed this. Like the way Rajkot has developed, like the way Surat has developed, there are about 2,000, 3,000 other sectors in which businesses have developed. So if you see the background of these performance of these clusters together, we will be surprised. You take Surat for example. I was there last year. Surat's turnover now this year would be, I don't know exactly, around 2 lakh crores annual turnover. Annual turnover. In 2021-22, when I went there, there are two economic activities there. One is textile, another one is diamond industry, diamond export. So textile industry, if you see, there are wholesale textile shops over there. 25,000, 30,000 shops selling saris of ladies. So merchants from across India go there, buy their requirements. So their turnover was about 90,000 crores. 2 years back. And we all know Surat is known for diamond. Diamond export was about, diamond turnover was about 80,000 crore. And I was asking them, what about the other related activities, real estate and all? It will be about 25 to 30,000 crore. So Surat, one city, two businesses, non-turnover, annual turnover 2 lakhs. Developed by very ordinary people from Saurashtra region, without much educational background, coming from, in fact, agricultural background. They were not much educated. But it is they who developed. I remember when we came here for the first time, 2001, I met one prominent exporter here. So he was narrating his story, his background as to how he came here. He had studied only up to second standard, but he was the top most exporter at that time in 2001 when we came and interviewed him. And this is how in different parts of the country, the very ordinary people of India have promoted businesses, and then now many of these business centers are playing a dominant role at the national and international level. You take Surat, you take Tirupur, you take places like this, they are at the top, at the international level. And many other centers are playing very important role at the national level. At the national level. They are all completely developed by the local people. So what is the reason for this? No, IIT went and advised them. They are very, very important engineering centers. There is an important place in Tamil Nadu, certainly you may not be knowing because it is not that prominent. Of course, it is known to people in South India because we have Lord Ardhanarishwara there. So people from Karnataka, Kerala, they all come there. This Tiruchengodu in Tamil Nadu was till about 10 years back most wealthiest district in Tamil Nadu. Per capita wealth was the highest because that place at one point of time owned 90% of the borewell machines, rig borewell machines that were used anywhere in India. So whether you go to Jammu Kashmir or Arunachal Pradesh or Rajasthan, you would see these Tiruchengodu people running this borewell machine. I remember they used to tell us stories. In Maharashtra, it happened some 10-20 years back when Mr. Sharad Pawar was the chief minister. He was not sure whether we would be able to retain power because there was huge drought at that time, just before elections, 5-6 months before the elections. They did not know what to do. Even if they employ all government machinery, they will not be able to. They would not be able to dig wells. Then somebody told them, "Sir, in Tamil Nadu there is one borewell association in Tiruchengodu. You contact them." Immediately, Chief Minister's office contacted them. They came here. Then discussions were over. Then government officials told them, you have to take so many wells here. They did it so perfectly, and immediately election dates were announced. So they used to tell me jocularly, the Chief Minister wanted to disperse funds immediately, but at that time elections were coming. Then we told them, don't worry sir, we will get funds after the elections are over. Then after the elections are over, he became the Chief Minister and he became very close to them because they did all the work, but they did not demand money immediately. So I tell them that what a government, state government could not do, an industry association from a particular city, a particular district, they did it. So this is the power of our clusters. I am saying this to emphasize the power of our clusters. And like this, across the country, we have very, very powerful clusters. At the beginning, I mentioned that wherever these powerful clusters are there, vibrant clusters are there, then the state's economy are at the top position. You take any state, Gujarat, Punjab, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, etc. So entrepreneurship in India is in the blood of Indians. In spite of all difficulties, they would do something. We might have heard the usage of the word jugaad. how to pronounce Jugaad or Jugaad? Yeah,
Jugaad.
Jugaad. Jugaad is an improvised version of whatever we have to make a better product or make a better process. So somebody from IIM Ahmedabad, only Professor Anil Gupta, is documenting the local innovations, and it has already crossed more than grassroots innovations. It has already crossed more than 1 lakh. So much of Jugaad innovations, improvisations are taking place at every level. In fact, we ourselves have seen as to how our so-called ordinary entrepreneurs defeating multinational corporations. I have documented a few of them also. There was an interesting incident, I tell you very briefly, in Tamil Nadu, in Tirupur. Always foreign companies used to sell machines. One particular American multinational company was used to sell for so many years what they call compacting machine. Compacting machine is a machine through which the finished cloth has to go to remove shrinkages. So the market was entirely dominated by American company. One person, third standard failed person, his name is Sundaram. He is now doing business. At that time he was about 25, 26. Now he will be around 40, 46 or so. He used to make small machines, improvising things. So he noticed that there was demand for this compacting machine. He made it. He did not have money. In fact, he was having only 10,000 rupees. With the help of his mother's money, I'll come to know later as to how mothers drive Indian economy. So, with the help of his mother's money, he invested in that machine, developing that machine. And when he introduced that machine in the annual textile machinery fair, the sole manufacturer, supplier, the American company, was surprised to see, because at that surprised to know about it, because at that time he made that machine at 1/3 of the cost at which the American company was selling. The American company went to him, negotiated with him, can you do it for us? He said, no, I want to do it on my own. And within 3 years, he captured the entire Indian market. And now, after a few years, he was supplying this machine not just to India, Indian companies, all around us, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, all textile nations of Asia. One individual. Very ordinary person. So like this, there are several examples. Ordinary primary education failed student. He has not even completed 5th standard, only 3rd standard failed. But he defeated a multinational American company and became the #1 sole supplier, manufacturer in India. So there are all case studies for this. I remember a few years back, Department of Science and Technology, in their report mentioned that 30% of the innovations in India take place through illiterates. So the ordinary Indian, by nature, not all, a sizable number of them are innovators. I remember 2010, in Harvard Business Review, Professor C.K. Prahalad and CSIR Director General, Mashelkar, they wrote an article on innovation in third world countries. That they mentioned India was the 13 years back, 2010. India was the only country where the cheapest innovations have been taking place, and it is happening even today. So I mentioned just 3 aspects. One is this savings, second one capital formation, third one entrepreneurship. So when we go to the field and study this, we come to know firsthand that these developments are taking place. These are happening in front of us, before us. You go to Rajkot even today, you go to Morbi even today, you go to Surat even today. We all know Morbi was completely destroyed by the floods, rebuilt. Of course, government is in the case of Gujarat, but people took part voluntarily, and today, now, it's a very, very important cluster. When we went there 10, 12 years back, to study in detail. It was the largest watchmaker in Asia, the whole of Asia. At that time, this Ajanta water clock manufacturer, he was setting up a plant in China. So for ceramic tiles again, Gujarat was playing the lead role. Like this, different parts of the country. So these are all the important features of Indian economy, Indian businesses. Why? What is the background? The background is family. Family plays the most dominant role, most important role in all our economic and business activities. Family is the main reason. So in spite of large-scale issues affecting families from different sides, family remains as largely by and large as a coherent unit. A family is not just a social unit, it is not just a cultural unit, it is an economic unit also. In India, nobody is an individual. I don't know, you may not know in villages, when they take into account, particularly for temple purposes, family as one single unit. They don't consider as to how many members are there. Family is the unit. So in economics also, we have noticed that family is the unit. So whatever decision a mother takes, whatever decision a father takes, he takes it for the family as a whole. And in all important economic and investment saving issues, as I mentioned earlier, mothers play a very, very dominant role. In fact, when I went and meet people in different parts of the country, they always say, sir, it is largely due to my mother, my wife, my sister, my grandmother. I have written about it, I have given lectures about it. You may be interested to know, for the last 6 years I am offering a course in the Tamil Nadu University entitled Women in Indian Economy and Society, completely based on our studies. Women of India remain the backbone of Indian economy. But we always compare how many women sit at the boards of corporates. It doesn't matter whether a woman cooks at home or wherever she sits, she is contributing to the economy. So when we go and meet them, our people always say, sir, my mother-in-law gave money. As I mentioned earlier, Sundaram, his father refused to give money. He said, you have a younger sister, one more brother, I cannot spend money for you. Then all mothers, we all know, all Indian mothers have their own separate accounts. Now bank accounts, earlier their own account. So when sons demand money, normally they give money. I have seen hundreds of people telling me that, sir, my mother gave me 30,000 rupees, 40,000 in those days. And that is how they develop businesses. There was an interesting
Questions
so how many minutes more? Because I'll write up. So this is how the family plays a very, very important role in India. And with women driving the economic activities, I was mentioning, we made a study some 15 years back among the hotel owners. Ananda Bhavan, Nari Bhavan, Vasanta Bhavan hotels, they are from Tamil Nadu, they are there everywhere. You will be surprised to know, sisters played an important role in the promotion of the business. Sisters, after their marriage, they went into their husbands' families, nudging their husbands to give money to their brothers. And that is how 21% of the hotels in Tamil Nadu, now they are throughout the world, they are from Tamil Nadu. They promoted their business. So this is how we came to know. And in all these things, our culture plays the dominant role. Why family? Why this? This is because culture of India drives the family system as such. India is not just another country, it's a civilization, ancient civilization, perhaps the longest living civilization. We all know, if we see the economic history of India, for about 4,000, 5,000 years, we were performing very, very well. For the last 23 years, we have got economic data now provided by OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. They undertook a study for about 16, 17 years between 1980s and 2001. 2001 they published a book report called World Economic Report, a millennial perspective. So if you see the report, it says that even if we take the last 2 millennia, India during the beginning of the common era, 2023 years back, was contributing 32.9% to the global GDP. We were the topmost performer at the global level. China was behind us, contributing 26.2%. So over the next 1,800 years, India and China remained as the topmost economic powers in the world. With most of the time India playing the top role, India remaining at the top role. So our economic system was systematically destroyed by people, particularly the Europeans, as a result of which we became poor. We became illiterate, completely destroyed. Details are available now. No, I am not saying this for the sake of saying it. We all know Professor Ustad Patnaik study, Jawaharlal University professor, shows that 45 trillion tons worth of wealth was taken away from India by the colonizers, largely British. Today, the American GDP is $23 trillion. So if you take $45 trillion means the present worth of America, twice the present worth of America was taken away from India. So much of wealth was looted. That is the reason why we became a poor country. Our education system was completely destroyed by them. So India is a continuity, you can see, if you recall that period. So we have that strong fundamentals. Our fundamentals always remain with us. That is the reason why we remain as a powerful nation, and that is the reason why we are emerging today as a powerful nation. We have very strong fundamentals with us. As I said, this family system, social capital, our culture, these are all our strong fundamentals. John Kenneth Galbraith, you may be knowing, well-known economist from America, he was the ambassador of America to India when Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, 1960s. Robert Kennedy was the President of America. So he served here for 3 years. He is an economist by himself. So he understood the way India was functioning, and after nearly 40 years, he came back to India in 2001. He went around the country, and before leaving India for America, he gave an interview with the press in which he said, I have been observing India for the last 40 years very closely. I am amazed to see the development of India, and this development is largely due to the culture of this country. And now we have been conducting several studies. Of course, there are studies by foreign universities. In 2001, Wharton University, Kellogg Business School, they came here to study the leadership patterns. You know, in the Western countries, particularly America, the corporate system has failed, largely failed. Economic system also has failed. So they came here to know how the Indian system is surviving and even prospering. So they came here, they met with, they wanted to meet the chief executives of all top Indian companies, both public sector and private sector. They identified 101 companies. Finally, they met with the chief executives of 98 companies. After interviewing them, they wrote an article in Harvard Business Review. You know what was the title? Leadership Lessons from India. Later it came out in the form of a book also. Leadership Lessons from India. So in that article, in that book, they describe as to how Indian leadership systems remain at the forefront as a model to the rest of the world. What was the reason for this? They say it is due to the unique nature of the Indian society. So we have to understand that we have unique characteristics as a nation. And it is because of these unique characteristics now we are able to move forward. Unfortunately, in the last few years, there are very proactive policies from the government, whether you take this Make in India or Atmanirbhar Bharat. There are several initiatives that are taking place as a result of which we are fast emerging as a global power. You know, the startup system was largely initiated only in the last few years. Now, Our new startups are almost touching 1 lakh. And startups with a billion turnover, 8,200 crore turnover, is already 103 or 104. Fast developments are happening. So Indians by nature have the tendency to perform. During Corona time, we all know, beginning of the Corona, March 2020, we don't have anything with us because nobody expected. We did not have PPE kit, the kids, personal protective equipment, PPE kits. So the government gave a call and it encouraged people to start these activities. I know because I come from Coimbatore. In our own region, Coimbatore and Tirupur, within 3 months people started making it. And you will be knowing by the end of 2020 December, we became self-sufficient. From 2021, we started exporting and today we are the second largest suppliers in the whole world. By nature, Indians have enormous capacity, enormous economic business wisdom, entrepreneurial wisdom. So this we have to capitalize on it, and that is why we always say when we follow the prevailing system that is there in India, then that will lead to progress. And we have to understand that whenever the culture and economics join together, then economic development takes place. One reason why the West has failed in the last 30-40 years is that they ignored the personal, cultural, family aspects. They completely ignored it. They demean women in culture, society, in family. Family system collapses. When family system collapses, there will not be safety. No safety. Family system compels people to save money. They destroy divinity in women. They destroy motherhood in women. So that is the reason why economics fail, and no amount of theories will work there. I remember after the 2008 global crisis, Paul Krugman, who got the Nobel Prize for 2008 in economics, Princeton University professor, he said, I quote, much of our theories have proved to be harmful to the society. Openly acknowledged. Our meaning Western, much of our economic theories have proved to be harmful to the society. So this is how they were theorizing. They have been theorizing all the period. But here we have a tradition, we have a culture that we have to understand and to follow. My appeal to all these scholars here is that we have to study India from the Indian perspective. India can never be studied through textbooks. Impossible. So we have to study India by observing the society, by observing our own near and dearest, our own neighbors, etc. We get enormous lessons out of it. And now there are a lot of initiatives being taken up by at the government level. We have to understand this. Now, there are IKS, Indian knowledge systems are also coming. Of course, we cannot implement whatever had happened earlier, some 2000 years back, not necessary also. Even today in the 21st century, Indians have enormous knowledge. Knowledge system is with them. Only thing is we have to make use of it to the maximum possible extent. I don't think that India's progress will be slower in the coming days. In fact, 21st century will be India's century, and I feel that we will be achieving greater heights in the coming years. So only thing is, Rabindranath Tagore once said, God has given different question papers to different countries. If you want to write answers for your question paper, then you have to see what is the question and write. You cannot write answers for American question paper or other countries' question paper. In fact, we have a history of economic performance here. I did not touch business because we did not have time. We have at least 4,000, 5,000 years of business history. The corporate system was in existence in India some 3,000 years back. SREMI. Srini was the corporate form of organization that existed 2,000, 3,000 years back. Now, a Yale University professor from India, he compared the modern US corporate system and the ancient Indian corporate system, and he has shown as to how the Indian system was much better. Even today, if you compare Indian corporate with Western corporates, I was mentioning about capital reserve ratio, ours are much better in many respects. This we have to understand. We have a feeling that anything that is Western is good, modern. Anything that is Indian is bad. It is not like that. Now, the standard universal models have completely failed. Whether it is communism, capitalism, or the business theories, etc., they have completely failed. Even the United Nations and the multilateral agencies like IMF, World Bank, they have been arguing for the last 50, 60 years that you need to follow this standard model, universal model. They have completely accepted that each country has its own model. So India, with her long years of economic history, business history, has enormous knowledge to offer solutions to us. We can, we can have solutions, and that is the reason why, even after so many years of economic enslavement, India is progressing, moving ahead as a very important economic power in a period of just 70 plus years. So this is a unique story, India story. We have to understand it, and I request all of you to take more time to study India from this Indian orientation, so that we will be able to perform our duties better as the elite sections of the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. भारत के बारे में अगर इतना अच्छे से समझना है तो हमको जरूर भारत को एक नजरिए से देखना है. जैसे प्रोफेसर कनकसभापति ने कहा कि फैमिली पर्सपेक्टिव से, विमेन पर्सपेक्टिव से, सेविंग पर्सपेक्टिव से और कल्चरल पर्सपेक्टिव. We have to look India from the Indian perspective, and most important thing what he said that अगर भारत को देखना है तो किताबों में नहीं देखना पड़ेगा. भारत को आपको समझना है तो भारत की परंपरा, संस्कार, संस्कृति, उसको गांव में जाके देखना, उसको फैमिली में देखना, उसके फैमिली की कल्चर को समझना, तब हम भारत को समझ सकते हैं. तो भारत को समझने के लिए, उसकी इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट को समझने के लिए, उसकी ग्रोथ को समझने के लिए और आगे की ग्रोथ को जानने के लिए हमको इसके फैमिली सिस्टम, सोशल सिस्टम, कल्चरल सिस्टम, उसका अध्ययन करना पड़ेगा. और ये इस फैमिली सिस्टम को समझने के लिए, समझने की जरूरत नहीं है क्योंकि हमारा ये वेल रिसर्च एरिया है, द फैमिली सिस्टम ऑफ इंडिया, एंड हाउ सेविंग ऑलरेडी इट इज प्रूव्ड, रिटन, हाउ फैमिली सिस्टम, सोशल सिस्टम had contributed in Indian economic development, and already it is preserved in literature and culture, and of course in our all literature. The question is now how we can take it forward. Number one, how we can take better use of such concept, practical concept, for the economic development of emerging India, and how we should inculcate, involve these Indian models. First thing to understand Indian model from the perspective of growth and development and entrepreneurship, capital formation, social structure, what Professor has said. First thing is certainly we need research again, the new perspective, where we need research scholars, institutes like GIDR, or IC Social Sciences Research Institute, and we should be proud of to be coming forward as a research institute working for the Indian model of emerging economy. So we should not be think like that we are not a science institute or we can't do that, because nothing is possible when you don't study the social structure. So understanding economic structure or cultural structure, social structure is important, family is important. So now we should have this opportunity with this present government and this governance and the philosophy that we should come forward for studying Indian economy and economic development, the emerging area, the emerging challenges, to take it forward. The research, teaching, we should create small courses, to teach our next generation about the Indian model of economic development. How our forefathers, our culture, our ancient economic development was working, and still the principle of Chanakya, the principle of Patel is still working. It is always as it was working. I have only one question. I think, so what should be the role of institution and state to promote institution like Social Science Research Institute to take such studies forward, and how we can get some resources. Maybe we should have some recommendation from the from you, or maybe from more policy makers, that how to promote such institutions, so that such institutions can contribute more towards this kind of research, where we can focus on Indian model of economic development, and why India should work from Indian model, not from some Western model. How we should approach, what should be our way of talking to the government, approaching to government, and what you can see that such institute can play a role in contributing in such research.
In fact, when we say Indian models, not Western models, we should not think that we are against anything from outside. No, it's not like that. So we have enormous strengths as a nation. So if we have some important lessons to learn from anywhere outside India, we have to absorb it, study it. So when we say Indian models, we do not mean that we are against anything. No, it's not like that. This is the first point. Second, as far as the government is concerned, you know, I was part of the system ICSSR for about 6 years. I was chairman also for about a year or so. As far as the government is concerned, now the government is very clear on one aspect. I remember in 2016-17 we gave a note to the government saying that the social science institutions should be the connecting points between the local societies and the policy makers, because we all know, whether it is a state government or central government, they do not have the infrastructure to find out the background details of each and every sector in our country. Let us say there is a problem in a Gujarat city or a Gujarat village, Gujarat region. They may not have all the details. So, how to get it? So, I always feel that the local institution, a local educational institution, should become the resource center. In fact, as long as I was there, even today, wherever I go, I tell people that you should become the resource center for the local area. So, if there is a government of India or government of Gujarat wants to know something about, let us say, Surat, then there should be an institution, educational institution, that has all the details. Government officials may not have, because they don't have the capacity to collect details, and there are many limitations with regard to the bureaucratic system. We are all familiar with it. So we have to make the educational institutions at the local levels as the research centers. So ICSSR introduced a scheme in 2018-19, through which we wanted to connect the local areas with the policy makers. Now, different government departments get inputs from ICSSR. Of course, ICSSR collects details from organizations like GIDR or colleges, or universities, etc. So, as far as the institutions like GIDR is concerned, I would suggest that you start studying wherever you have the strength, in whichever area you have the strength. You start studying the Gujarat state. If somebody asks you to give details with regard to, let us say, Gujarat MSME industry, we should have the details. Right now, none of the institutions across the country they have. We have to be the resource center for them in specific areas wherever we have to. It may not be possible for us to know everything. I have seen that now we have about 25, 26 research ICS supported institutions across the country. Wherever we go, when we went, I was part of the Kerala institution, Chennai, Lucknow. So wherever we go, we ask them, to what extent you are contributing to your local state. In many cases, less than 10%, 5%. But they will be studying a global level, not much use. Your focus should be more on the local society, state economy, state society. So you start studying it. Then once you start doing it, governments will come to you. You need not go to government. Government will come to you. So you have to develop that expertise. Even when I go to colleges, I tell them, if the college is in I've told one or two institutions that you have to become resource centers. Each of these places, if you see, they are unique in their own way. Unique in their own way. And they contribute to the economy, society, in their own ways. If you take Coimbatore, the turnover of Coimbatore would be around 1.5 lakh crores annual turnover today. But no institution has the details. And state government certainly will not have anything. They will not. Government officials, once they go and sit, then they will see where will they go for their next promotion. They don't have this. So only educational institutions can play this role, particularly research organizations like this. So I would urge you to take, first identify a few areas that you are stuck and then start concentrating on it. Once you start collecting data and you have the resources, then the government would come. Then you approach the government, tell them, we are specializing in this, can you do a project for us, etc. Then you can do it. Otherwise, if you work generally, there will not be much focus on money. So at least from now onwards, if you can do it, from my part, I am ready to contribute to whatever extent. So because I feel it is my duty wherever I go to see that institutions like this should come up and contribute to the development of the state and the country as a whole. Otherwise, now the academic institutions remain as islands from the society. They do not know what is happening. An institution that is there in Coimbatore do not know what kind of economic activities are taking place. In Rajkot, we went there, we asked them, how much educational institutions are supporting this, and no, sir. This is the problem. But the children from that region only come and study, and it is they who contribute to it, it is they who do. And these centers are excellent centers for which people from different parts of the country come and work. But we don't concentrate. We study about Wall Street, we study about things which we may not require. So this is the point, you try to shift focus and concentrate on special areas that is unique to your region, then it will open up new opportunities. We are always here to learn.
Sir, I have two curiosities and one question.
Yes.
So, the question is, do you see foreign direct investment a threat to self-employment?
Foreign direct.
Yes. That was the question. And the two curiosities was, you talked about this banking system that is culturally has taken root and has been there since Tamil Nadu. So, was that restricted to few communities like Chettiars and then or was it inclusive or not? One thing.
Banking?
Yeah, this you said that few communities were involved in this banking system, saving and all this.
Not saving.
Was that within the same community or?
Yes. Okay.
So that is one curiosity. And second one, you said there were 200 crore revenues. You said 200 crore revenue.
Which
In the presentation you said. savings or revenue, whatever. Was it Ahmedabad?
Saving.
Savings, you said 2,200 crore. So my question, my curiosity was that where and in which form these savings used to be? Were they reinvested somewhere else, or they were in liquid form in protecting certain area?
So first one,
First one was the question.
foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment. See, in India, and the government of India opened up the investment sector in 1991. So if we see the foreign direct investment in India, I know for the last 15-20 years, last 2-3 years I have not studied in detail, always foreign direct investment as a share of investment remained less than 5%. Less than 5%. So it is not that we require foreign investment for India to develop. No. Whereas there are a lot of opportunities to mobilize funds from within India. Within India. So foreign direct investments have always played a very lesser role. See, as far as the foreign direct investment proving to be a threat to self-employment, of course we have to be very careful. It is not just foreign direct investment, even domestic investment also in big corporates, etc.
So for mercantile.
Yes. No,
So that was in the context of foreign FDI entering into the wholesale business, like kirana shops. And that was in that context.
Yes, no problem. So we all know what happened. In fact, some of us people like us, we were against it. That we were saying that foreign direct investment should not happen. We all know the story of Walmart and many other European big retail companies destroying in the process billions of small businesses, etc. So even in the case of domestic investment, we have to be very careful. Wherever self-employment opportunities, opportunities are more, always the government should concentrate on the smaller activities. In that respect, we all have to welcome the recent announcement of scheme by the government of India, Vishwakarma Yojana. Now through this Vishwakarma Yojana, government is going to help the traditional artisans like potters, like weavers. There are 18 specific areas mentioned, which they are going to expand also. So these are the traditional works that have huge opportunities, not just in India, abroad also. In fact, textiles. As far as I know, I don't know the exact number, some 2,000, 3,000 clusters are there, even in textiles, smaller clusters. And each one of them is unique. Each one of them, our people have the capacity to weave saris, for example, in unique way, in different parts of the country. Similarly, different other locations, goldsmith, blacksmith, etc. So for them, the government have now allotted 13,000 crores initiative. They are going to encourage it. And this is very, very important. This is where we will be promoting the self-employment. As far as Mudra scheme is concerned, you all will be knowing that already 40 crore loans have been given, more than 40 crores. 25 lakh crores worth of amount has been given. So this all will help us to promote self-employment businesses. This is very important. As far as investment in certain sectors, which would threaten self-employment is concerned, government should take immediate action and stop, because we need more and more self-employment activities, so that people will be self-reliant and their dependence on government is almost nil. They don't depend on the government for anything. They don't go to the street and say, you give this, that, or they don't even go to the minister and say, you provide this. You only big industrial bodies go to the government for concessions. Self-employment people do. So we have to encourage more and more. Then second one.
That was that restricted to one community?
No. See, actually, earlier, of course, businesses were to an extent in certain, to a large extent in certain Asia communities. But in Indian history, if you see, you will come to know no Indian business was restricted to any group. But it remained maybe largely within certain specific communities. But even today, anyone can do any business, no restriction at all. You take Tirupur for example, there are entrepreneurs from all states of India in Tirupur. You see Rajasthani businessmen, Punjabi, Gujarati of course, very many. So likely no restrictions, but largely local people will be there. As far as the saving investment is concerned, it is true that initially, some 100 years back, many banks were developed by the Vaishya community people in Tamil Nadu region, Chettiar communities, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, etc. They are Vaishyas. But does not mean that the people who deposit money, who do the banking transactions are all Chettiars. It is open for anybody. I mentioned that this Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank was promoted by a community called the Nadas. They were actually multi-factory claimers. They come from very ordinary background, not from business background. But today they are one of the largest business communities in Tamil Nadu. Why even in India? 70% of the grocery businesses in India takes place through this Nada community. You go to Mumbai, Delhi, these Nada businessmen have their own businesses. So even though they run the business, transactions are not restricted to the community. I mean, everybody is. I don't remember about this 200 crores. 200 crores. Yes, depending upon your time. Madam?
Just one observation I was going to make.
Yes, madam.
My questions you had, but I will just highlight you have been talking about self-employment and all that. India has a substantial share of self-employment. The self-employment actually encompasses a very broad spectrum of activities. A highly paid architect in a city is self-employed, and a poor landless labourer who has a small, repair kind of an activity is also self-employed. And by and large, as researchers and through the secondary data which is generated by the government systems only, there is very number of studies have been done, an entire corpus of literature which tells you that self-employment by and large has been a distress within it. So if you have nothing better to do, you are a landless labourer, you don't have a regular salary job, or you don't even getting wage employment anyway as casual labour. In fact, incomes of casual labour are far more than some of the self-employed. So you are resorting to self-employed out of distress. So under those conditions, and also you have very rightly mentioned that everybody has to be independent. You should not depend on the government. But if you want to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit amongst the Indian masses, as you have rightfully said, that we are inherently an entrepreneurial country and all that, what is the kind of support the government and what is the kind of conducive environment that the government will have to offer? Because we are seeing that even the growth of rural non-farm sector at the India level is not very high. It is actually very low. And people are migrating towards the cities. Why? Our cities are bursting at the seams. Why? Because people have no employment opportunities at the countryside. So they are from agriculture, they are directly going to construction and personal services and those kind of activities in the urban areas. So don't you think that making a conducive environment, promoting self-employment is the need of the hour, promoting rural industrialization is the need of the hour, and under those conditions, how do you impart, whether it's imparting skill, whether imparting credit, making technology available to the masses, new innovations, all those things are very important. So just by saying and resting on our past laurels that we are a very country which is because of our social networks also work only at a certain level of the society and certain incomes and social groups. Not everybody is benefiting or has benefited from social networks. So what is the role in that context of the powers that we and the government, that what are the concrete steps that if you want self-employment to emerge in large numbers and productive self-employment, there is no point in having self-employment where people are just aching out a living to stay, put their souls and their bodies together. Just that is one thing. So all these aspects are actually interlinked. When you want to promote rural non-farm employment, you want to promote self-employment, and under those conditions, what is the kind of conducive environment and the banking facilities, for instance? You mentioned women's role in economic development, but today women's participation is not recognized. Most of the women's activities as non-SNA, they are not recognized in the GDP calculations. We are not considering women's activities as productive activities. How that can be corrected? What is the thinking of government in those lines? How can if you see the former labour force participation rates, we are probably possibly the lowest female labour force participation rates in India. But at the same time, you have also mentioned, we have seen in our families, we have seen in the rural areas, no women is lying, without any, nobody is just wasting their time. In fact, women are the most overworked creatures. But their productive work is not counted. Then at the same time, how do you bring them out of the agriculture? Even in the agriculture sector, where statistics tells us that the largest number of employment of women is in the agriculture sector. In the agriculture sector, they are confined to the low-paying tasks. They are not sharing the burden they are just sharing the burden. They are not part of the managerial decisions. They are not part of the marketing sector in agriculture. So all these problems are there. So under those situations, how do we move forward, and what should be the very active role of the government in promoting these aspects, which you rightfully mentioned that India has an inherent strength and a tradition, and also the cultural strength which is there.
There are 3, 4, 5 issues, madam. As far as I am concerned, I don't rely on past glories. My speech is not on past glories. I wanted to connect the contemporary events with the past happenings. In that context only I mentioned. Whatever we have learned is based on contemporary 21st century living functioning systems, what we call functioning systems. So this is how the society is there. Of course, there are many difficulties. We were under, India was under, alien rule, one part of the other for about 1,000 years. You cannot solve everything in such 77 years. What I am saying is we are moving ahead in spite of all these difficulties, limitations, particularly at the government level, as I mentioned, confusions and contradictions at the bureaucratic policy making level. Indian society is moving ahead. Nobody can deny it. Of course, what some of the points you mentioned is correct, but I don't say that only people who do not have any job go to self-employment. It is not. Maybe in some areas it may be there, but it is not like that. Even today, because we are engaged in these studies, there are people who want to do self-employment on their own. There are sections of people who want to do engage in self-employment activity alone. Now you may be knowing, I don't know whether you know or not, there are people who already got employment, who already get regular income, but they want to go and do something on their own. This number is increasing, particularly in states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. It may not be in millions, hundreds, thousands it is there. So, as far as these self-employment activities are concerned, it is true that they have to be encouraged, and in some areas, maybe many areas, there are distresses, difficulties. I don't accept that only people who are in distress go to self-employment. When they lose opportunities, of course, they search for self-employment opportunities, but it is not 100% correct. See, as far as this ladies sitting in these positions are concerned, first of all, we should know GDP calculation is not the perfect calculation. For want of other better calculation, we are using it. The one who developed GDP calculation in 1960s said, you should not use it for measuring the economic performance. It was used with the limited objective of making some calculations.
No. One thing I'm trying to make, I'm not commenting on the correctness of the GDP calculation. I'm just saying that most of the women's economic work is not recognized.
Yes.
That is the point I'm making.
It is true. I am coming to that. It is true. Women's work is not taken into account. See, here we have to understand that when we, as I said, Each society is different. We cannot compare, use the so-called Western methodology to study our economy. It won't work. You said that so many people are not sitting there in boards, etc. It's true. More and more women should go. That is the reason why different governments are taking steps. More steps should be taken, it is true. But I will give just one example. You see the human development index wise number top 2, 3, 4 countries. You take Norway, Sweden, these countries have always been there. But you please go and see the condition of women there. In Norway, Sweden, if I remember right, of course, we were studying it in detail till 3, 4 years back. I have written a book also in Tamil. There women have parity. In fact, if you see the parliamentary representation, etc., 55% of the women are in parliament in some 3, 4 years back in Sweden, Norway, etc. But what is their condition? Family-wise. On an average, those days, every day women were subjected to lot of cruelties, etc. So one cannot compare the Western situation, taking a small country with 70 lakh, 80 lakh population and comparing to the country like us. Of course, things have to be improved, but taking one or two aspects and measuring it and using the same measurement for India, in my opinion, it won't be good. As far as government of India is concerned, this particular government, I know, has been taking a lot of initiatives to develop entrepreneurship among public. There are several initiatives that I can mention. Mudra, we all know. There is a scheme called Stand Up India, according to which every nationalized bank branch in anywhere in India, whether it is a small village or hilly region, has to give loan at least to one baby. These are all initiatives taken by the government. Of course, now we are moving ahead. We should have solved this problem, but we cannot blame one government. Now steps are being taken. Over the years, we hope and feel, we hope that things would improve. But we are moving in a very positive direction. That is my opinion. Because for so long, for hundreds of years, people have been subjected to difficulties, given certain sections of the society. Now things are moving in a positive way. But my approach, I am not speaking for the government, my approach is, as a social science teacher, how I have observed as India as a society, as an economy. Based on my field studies, I am presenting this to you. And my appeal to senior people like you is that please don't compare India with the situation prevalent elsewhere, because each country has its own characteristics. And it is the women of India who contribute the most to the economic development. It is true that their contribution is not recognized in the GDP context, in other contexts and all. That is the reason why, even in that respect, now there are a lot of discussions going on whether we have to accept this, whether we have to take these indices, index numbers. You might have seen that particularly in the last 3-4 months, Vivek Debra, our economic advisor, and Sanjeev Sanyal, they are writing all these indices, index numbers. Because whenever we estimate our country in comparison with other countries, we always use these standard Western yardsticks. So this is absolutely biased things. If you take the human development aspect, just take only three factors into consideration. Similarly, whether it is literacy or health index, whatever it is. So in fact, we have to develop our own indices, our own yardsticks to measure the performance. So my assumption, my understanding is that India is moving ahead in spite of all these difficulties. We all have to contribute in our own ways to make it possible. So, thank you.
So, sir, there is one online question from Dr. Maninder, Eastward Development Study Jaipur. He works on these clusters and innovation. So he is asking that the Indian clusters are of natural origin, that they emerge due to efforts of local people. In this context, how can we make them more competitive, especially when there is minimal government support, some clusters are vibrant, but there are many clusters which are stagnating or declining.
So she wants to know how the government can support.
So he is saying that the clusters actually, many clusters are actually declining.
Yes.
Only few clusters are.
Yes. See, as far as declining of clusters is concerned, yes, as far as decline of clusters are concerned, it could be due to many reasons. It could be due to marketing reasons, or for want of shortage of funds, or it even could be due to international factors. We should study each of them and try to provide solutions. For example, in the case of textile clusters, I can tell. Of course, many of these smaller clusters are facing difficulties. It is largely due to marketing. You know, a saree that is selling for 1,000 rupees today could be sold for 15,000, 20,000 in the US months in market in Europe. That is happening in a few places. So, for them, marketing facilities are needed. So, particularly these clusters based on traditional skills, they have these marketing difficulties, and that is the reason why government has announced for these 18 different activities. But wherever it is required, we have to study, go on study, and depending upon it, we have to provide support. We have to provide. Each state government should do it. In fact, in my opinion, educational institutions, we have to study the local clusters, we have to study the local activity, find out the reasons, and then submit report to the government. This is what we have to do.
Thank you, sir.
Now it's up to you. Good evening, everybody. I am Madhusudan. Thank you for here. I feel honored and privileged to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of GIDR to Professor P. Kanagasabapathi for delivering such an insightful and inspiring lecture on economic model of development in India. His ideas and elegance of explaining the concepts are certainly going to dwell in our memory for a long time. Gratitude to our director, Professor Nisha Pandey, who has been inspiration and motivation for organizing this seminar. Thank you, madam, for being supportive and guiding us. Special appreciation also goes to Dr. Putra Mishra and his team members for successfully organizing this seminar, in fact at a short notice. Finally, I thank the audience who have taken out their precious time to attend this seminar in person and virtually, and made the interaction lively. And I give my special thanks to Niti ma'am and SD Dangaraj. Thank you, my colleagues and friends. Okay.
Thank you. So, we will start the token of appreciation. We are on behalf of GIDR. We are giving a small